Hey guys, welcome back. Let's jump right into it. We're going to be looking at all those functions, relations, and graphs questions from last year's paper. So the first one is to find the range of the function f of x is mapped onto x cubed for the domain negative 2 to 2. So let us look at negative 2 cubed. That's our first value there. And the result is negative 8. From that, I would go ahead and eliminate all the other options. Right? Let us take the last value and look at it. Just remember you have the negative 2, so your result is going to be negative. Because when you cube a negative number, then your result will be negative, right? Let us look at the positive 2 when it is cubed. So a positive 2 cube is a positive 8. I agree? So the negative cube would give you a negative result and the positive one give you a positive result. So you can go ahead now and look at all your options to see which one has that. And it's definitely D. It couldn't be A because your negative 2 times negative 2 give you what? Positive 4. Then positive 4 times negative 2 give you negative 8. So the only option that remains there is D. So the next question, if f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 1, then f of negative 3 is equal to... Now, for these questions, you should know by now, all you're doing is to substitute the number where x is. You're going to put the number that you get, like the negative 3 now in this case, put it, substitute it for x in your function. Substitute it for that x. Good. So we can rewrite now 2 times negative 3 squared minus 1. And we go ahead and work out that. So negative 3 squared give us what? A positive 9. Right? Positive 9. So we have 2 times a positive 9. It's a negative number. When you square a negative number, you get a positive result. Right? So we have now 2 times 9 minus 1. And 2 9s. So 2 9s. 18 minus 1. And that gives us a 17. So answer is C. Alright, I hope that is as clear as ever. Let us look at the next question. Alright, so which of the following pairs of lines is perpendicular? Now, you should remember perpendicular lines. What makes 2 lines perpendicular? You know they are perpendicular whenever their gradient, well, the product of their gradient is equal to negative 1. So whenever you take their gradient and multiply them, your result should be negative 1 if they are perpendicular. So you have to go ahead now and make sure that your equations are written in the form y equal mx plus c. Right? So just look, let's try with the easiest set of equations. So that's b. Let's try with b. We need to make, because b is already written in the form y equal mx plus c. Right? So we could go ahead and check for b. That is quick. And the gradient there is what? Remember, m is your gradient, the coefficient of x. Right? So the product of those two gradients would be what? 2 times 2. 2 times 2, right? And 2 times 4, 2 times 2 give us 4. So the product of those two lines gradient is 4. That would mean that those two lines are not perpendicular. Right? So we could go ahead now and check another equation, another set of equations. So we check in A. A is not written in the form y equal mx plus c. So we have to make sure that we change it. So the form y equal mx plus c. So we take over the 2 and the first equation becomes negative 3/2 x minus 8. Same place at A, we're looking at A. So that equation now, we're going to take over the 3x and we're going to take over negative 2. Right? I hope you're following. If you're still having troubles with algebraic equations, you can check out some of my videos on that. So we take over the 3x, it becomes negative 3x. And negative 8 was already on that side of the equation. And the negative 2 that is being multiplied by the y becomes division. It's dividing on the other side. Alright, sorry I skipped a few steps there. But I hope you are clear on that one. So we get negative 2 into negative 3 give us a positive 3/2. So positive 3/2 because the negative into negative there. So positive 3/2 x and the negative 2 into negative 8 there give us a positive 4. See that? Positive 4. All right. So we're going to take the gradients. So the gradients of equation 1 there is a negative 3/2 times a positive 3/2. When we multiply those two, what do we get? We don't have anything there can cancel. We just have to multiply 3 by 3 and 2 by 2. And one of the fraction is negative, so we have a negative 9/4. That means those two are not perpendicular because we did not get negative 1. Now students, you have to make sure you can work these equations as quickly as possible because you don't want to be wasting time working all of them. So make sure you know how to quickly solve these types of equations or to quickly identify the gradients, and so you can multiply the gradients to see which will give you negative 1. All right, so we're going to be checking C now. In the first equation for C, y equal negative 4 plus 10 and 4y equal x plus 1. But we're just going to take over the 4 to kill some time there. Because it was 4y, so when the 4 go over, you know it is dividing, right? So in the form y equal mx plus c, we get what? A quarter x plus a quarter. See that? All right, so now it is time to multiply the gradients. So the gradients there are negative 4 and a quarter. So when you multiply negative 4 and a quarter, we get negative 1. All right? Good. So C is our answer. So we get negative 1. So we are going to be looking at the next question now. And it says, which of the following represents the graph of a function? So you have to remember now what a function is. You know it has to be one-to-one, one element from the domain being mapped onto only one element on the range. So it can be a one-to-one mapping or a many-to-one mapping, right? You can't have more than one element and be mapped onto in the range. Just one and only one element from the range. So look at the graph there. I look at A and say that, oh, only one element is mapped onto one element in the range. I would just go ahead and select my A just to kill time. But I could double check on the others to make sure, reread my question, then double check on the next option just to make sure that I have chosen the correct answer. So if you look at B, you'll see that 2 from the domain is mapped onto 0 and it is also mapped onto 1. Well, not 2, 1 unit there in B. 1 unit there in B is mapped onto 0 in the range, and it is also mapped onto 1 unit in the range. And the same goes for -2. So you could look at the others and just to double check. Now the next question. The equation of the line which passes through the point 0, 5 and has a gradient of 4 is... So this means when you substitute 0, 5 in any of these equations, you should get a gradient of 4. And if you substitute the x term 0 in the equation that has a gradient of 4, then your y should be 5. All right, so let us look at the equation again for a straight line, which is y equal mx plus c. Right? All those equations there from A to D are all written in the form y equal mx plus c. So you can go ahead and substitute the values to see which one is correct. So say you put in 0, you have to put 0 where x is, of course, and then the 5 where y is in these equations. Now look at A. A has a gradient of 4. Good? Yes. And also B has a gradient of 5. So we can cross out B because we know that B wouldn't be the answer. D either, because B and D both have gradient of 5. We can eliminate those. But look at A now. If we should put the 0 where x is, we would get what? 4 times 0, which is just 0. So that wouldn't be our line, right? Because this one says that y is also 0. So we can go ahead now and check for C. We have eliminated A, B, D, so C should be our answer. The gradient there is 4. And when we substitute our 0 now for x, so 4 times 0 is 0 plus 5. So y equals 5. That means that is correct. So our correct answer there is C. Now on next question. So you get a graph, you need to examine your graph carefully. Please examine your graphs carefully, reread your questions at least 2 times. The straight line AB cuts the y-axis at... So go ahead, identify your y-axis and look where the line cut the y-axis. Remember, you read from your x-axis first. So the value there of your x is what? 0. Value of your x there is 0. And the value of your y is not a positive 2, but a negative 2. Right? Value of your y there is a negative 2. So your answer would be 0, negative 2, which is D. Alright. Pause the video and of course go over anything that you didn't get. Please comment below and let me know, guys, what you need clarifications on. Next question, another graph. This you get a graph to solve 2 questions from the same graph. All right, so let's just look at the first question. It is asking you for the values of x for which y equal 4x minus x squared. So that's the curve there. Intersects y equals 0 r. So examine your graph, of course, and substitute. So substitute the values for x in the equation to see which one will give you y equals 0. Right? Or you can identify this from your graph. Where, at what points does y equal 0? So clearly on the graph there, y equals 0 at the origin as well as at 4. So it would be 0, 4, which is A, when x is 0 and 4. But we can work it out, of course, put the values, as I said, in the equation to see. So we substituted for 0, now we substituted for 4. 16 minus 16, 0. So the answer is A. But as I said, you can look at your graph to see where on the curve y equals 0. If you're not so sure, then substitute the values in the equation. Alright, and work it out. So the next, so if you want to double check, you could probably check another option. That's if you have time or you're going over your paper and things like that, you can check another option just to make sure. But by now you should be able to look at your graph and tell these points. All right. So say for example you don't remember, again you can substitute the values just to make sure. So for C, if we should substitute negative 4 for x, we would get negative 32. So C would definitely not be our answer. Alright. Now the next part of that question. You need to determine the coordinates of the turning point of the curve. So the turning point is going to be at the maximum point there and then coming down, right? So if you look closely, you would see that the turning point is at 2 on the x-axis and 4 at the y. So it is 2, 4. 2, 4 is D. All right. All right, guys, since you have made it this far in this video, I just want to give you an extra question. So f of x is mapped onto x squared minus 3. What is f of negative 4? We're going to calculate f of negative 4. So again, all you need to do is to substitute this value for x. So we're going to put negative 4 where x is. Right? Negative 4 squared is now negative 4 is x minus 3. And we work out to see what it is equal to. So negative 4 means negative 4 times negative 4. That will give us positive 16. So it is 16 subtract 3. 3 from 16 gives us 13. So your answer is 13.